Good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us today. The show is Good Morning Africa. My name is Miriam Ogutu, and it is a pleasure to have you on board. As we all know, Kenya, we did go to our elections yesterday, and right now, counting and tallying is underway. I think actually counting is done. So right now it's the tallying of the voting that happened yesterday, and the turnout in some of the region perhaps were not as expected, but these are some of the things that we shall be discussing this morning. Thank you so much for finding time to be with us. And it is a pleasure. We're coming to you all the way from Kenya's capital here in Nairobi. So I'll take us through the headlines on the leading newspapers this morning, and then we will start our conversation very shortly. The Star newspaper, the main headline, race too tight. Raila and Ruto interchange lead. This early results stream in. That story is on page 4 and 5. Kiem's kit fail to recognize elderly voters in Garissa. That story is on page 11. IEBC reverts to manual register in select areas as Azimio protest. That story is on page 2. Hot wind and sand. Mobile voting in wilds of Tana River. That story is on page 3. The Standard newspaper, the moment of truth. Low voter turnout. IEBC numbers show this election could witness one of the lowest voter involvement in many years. And then on the Kiem's kit, electronic identification kits fail in several areas, even as IEBC assured they had put in place mitigation measures. And then some areas in the country witnessed isolated violence and delays in start time, leading to extension of voting hours, and polls called off in Rungai, Eldas, and Kitui rural parliamentary seats, and Nandi Hills ward battle, in addition to 4 others. So we shall look at that. The Daily Nation, the main headline, bated breath as tallying begins final tally. Raila Odinga and William Ruto were level last evening as results from the day's presidential election started streaming in, crowning a day that had earlier been sullied by low voter turnout across the country. There is the special coverage of this story on pages 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 12, and 13. Lowest voter turnout in recent history, and we shall look at that this morning. I am joined by Kiptanui Savania, all the way from Nakuru County. Kiptanui, a very good morning to you.
A very good morning to you. A very good morning to you, Miriam Ogutu. Good morning to everybody there. Thank you so much for having me this morning. So I'm actually reporting to you live from Nakuru County.
Very
Thank
well,
you.
very well. Thank you so much. And we're also joined by Samuel Tawish from Nairobi. Samuel Tawish, good morning.
A very good morning to you, Miriam Ogutu, from our communication headquarters. Good morning to Kip Tanui. And of course, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to our viewers watching this program in Kenya, Africa, and the rest of the world. My pleasure to join you on this program. Good morning, Miriam.
All right, a very good morning to you. And perhaps before we get into the nitty-gritties, of course, the headlines that we're reading this morning has since been passed by events, because we know we do have the real-time results trickling in, and we shall look at some of the results, especially from the counties that have been tallied, even as we wait for the official presidential results from the IEBC. And of course, the media houses and other organizations are already tallying their figures, because the Forms 34As are available on the IEBC's website portal there. Anybody can get a hold of them, and so we shall look at that in a short bit. But first, I'd like to hear about your voting experience yesterday. I went to vote after the early show. I went in the afternoon, and there was not a lot of people compared to the other elections before. There was not so many people on the queue, so I did not queue for a long time. In fact, in other polling stations, there was nobody at all. But for mine, I think because there's so many people with the name starting between L and M. So the queue that I was at was one of the longest, but not really, maybe about 25 people. So it was not as much. And I think we saw that replicated across the country. So perhaps what was your voting experience yesterday, Kiptanui?
Thank you. I actually casted my vote at Limo Primary School. Limo Primary School is in Chatham University. And we had a lot of challenges on my side because my name actually starts with S. So the queue was long. And we didn't experience much problems over there because the voting actually ran very smoothly. There were no complaints. We voted very well, Miriam. Actually, I saw a different thing this round that your fingerprints is being wiped. Sometimes many people had fingerprint challenges, but after wiping with those sanitizers and placing the VVRs, it shows your name. It shows actually your name and your photographs. And I want to applaud the IEBC for the good job they have actually done. I think we are moving towards digitalization of these things. It's no longer it's no longer a problem. And you see, Miriam, when you are entering at a gate, you are if you have not known the lane you are going to wait, send SMS and even it gives us the lane. I was in lane 7. So you could have even go to put that there and check your name. Immediately you check your name, it shows you where you are supposed to be voting, where your name belongs to. There are a lot of other alphabetical names who are actually having a very long queues and others are small queues. Security was very nice over there. I didn't see any complaint. If it happens that you are sick, like another mama, I had stood near Raswa. She was actually sick, and she asked if she can be allowed to vote. Another old man, a very senior citizen, was also allowed to vote rather than queuing. And actually, Miriam, voting was okay. I saw agents, and everybody was no entity. There was nothing else.
All right, thank you so much indeed. I think IBC, as much as there have been a couple of challenges that was experienced yesterday, but overall from across the country, even where I went to vote yesterday, the systems there seems to be quite efficient. I think I arrived and the clerks there were very alert and they show you towards. Of course, I had checked my polling station online. Remember, we could do that, so I knew exactly where to go, and they will help you out to go to where you're supposed to go. So I think IBC was quite organized compared to 2017, where we had to queue for a long time. Then after that, you enter inside, and that's where now you have to look for where your name is. And so it was a bit. It took so much time, but yesterday seems a bit efficient, except for areas where, there was some technical hitches with the KIEMS kids failing and things like that. But largely across the country, I think the voting exercise went on pretty well, with a few concerns recorded. Maybe not too few, but compared to the last time, it appeared to be much better. Samuel Tawish, a very good morning to you. And what was your experience yesterday voting?
Thank you so much, Miriam, and thank you to my fellow correspondent, Kip Tanui. Indeed, Miriam, my experience yesterday was fairly good. IBC, according to me, did quite fairly in as far as where I voted is concerned. I did vote in Ngumba polling station, that is in the Waraka dispensary in Kasarani constituency, right here in Nairobi. And Miriam, if I can attest really, my experience in as far as voting is concerned was rather fairly smooth and seamless. And of course, I had a very easy time even going to the polling station, of course, going to the stream that I belong to, and of course, the entire process did take a very considerably very small time for me to be able to get the ballot papers, my name to be verified and get the ballot papers, and also the entire process of voting was fairly smooth. Only that one thing I noticed, thanks that there was an issue to do with the rubber stamp of the ballot papers. And I was almost a victim of the same, because I noticed when I was given the ballot papers to go and cast my ballot, some of the ballot papers did not bear the official rubber stamp of the IEBC, particularly that of the president. And so when I raised the alarm with the IEBC, they were able to correct it, and they were able to do the rubber stamping of my ballot papers. And I hope it did help even to correct the rest of the other, of course, people who are going to vote and the rest of the polling station. So these are some of the hitches that, of course, some of the people really were able to face during yesterday's very critical exercise. There are people also who found their names missing in the Kim's kit. Others found their names having been transferred without their knowledge to different polling stations. In fact, some even to different counties, Miriam. And they were very, very disappointed. You can imagine someone coming and waiting in the queue for about 3, 4, 5 hours, and only for you to reach to the to a place you're supposed to vote, to be informed that your name is not actually in the voters register, and even if it's there, then you're not really eligible to vote in that particular region because your details are not captured to vote in that particular polling station. So it was, to some extent, a very big disappointment to some voters yesterday who experienced such kind of hurdles and hitches. That said and done, Miriam, I think IEBC should have also really co-opted the alternative of having a manual voter register to complement the Kim's kit, because you noticed yesterday we had a number of instances, in fact, including even high-profile politicians, the likes of Rigathi Gachagua, the likes of Esther Passaris, the likes of Wajakoya, and so many other candidates, including ordinary Kenyans, are going to the ballot to try and exercise their civic duty, only to realize that the biometric, or rather the Kim's kit, could not actually identify or recognize their identity. So it was a very big letdown on the part of IEBC. I still do not understand. I'm struggling to understand, Miriam, why IEBC was hell-bent only to use electronic or to use the Kim's kit and not having the manual voter register in place to complement or as an alternative in case the Kim's kit does fail, or if you find that a registered voter has come to the polling station and their names are not reflecting in the Kim's kit. So you'll have to resort on the manual voter register really to confirm whether this voter is registered to vote and in that particular station so that they're allowed to vote. Those are some of the things I think are a big letdown from the part of the ABC. It's a very big indictment. I don't know why they stood the ground and chose not to have the manual voter register just on standby rather in all the polling stations in the country, in that wherever we could have such kind of challenges, then they could just resort to the manual voter register. So they just had to resort to it as a last minute rush.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you so much, Samuel Tawish. So let's just get into the matter this morning. And of course, yesterday's voter turnout was the lowest in the recent history. According to IEBC, we have about 22,120,458. That is the total of number of voters registered for this year's election. And the people who turned out yesterday to vote were 12,065,000. Number of Kenyans who had voted by 4 p.m. yesterday, 1 hour to close of polling, translating to 56% turnout at that hour. So it's not too far from there. This is according to the Daily Nation. But the low voter turnout, especially in some regions, I don't know what surprised you, Kiptanui, Savannah, as far as the voter turnout is concerned.
Miriam, it is actually embarrassing. It's actually embarrassing that people, they didn't come out to vote. And I actually, you see, in where I normally vote, I've been casting my vote actually in Limo Primary School for some time now. And I took a lot of observation, Miriam. So I realized there are no people. People didn't come out. I don't know whether it is motivation. I don't know whether people have lost hope with this country or what is happening actually. Or people, maybe a lot of expectations, Miriam. And when I was coming back from Joro, I actually happened to come and see people in town. People and asking their businesses. People opened their businesses. People did not even appear to have actually voted. And you see, I raised an issue in the morning and I said maybe there will be a voter apathy in Central Province. And you see, Miriam, by now, it is almost almost 11, some minutes after 10. And when you see the tallying of the votes, because where I am seated in this venue, I can see. You see, it is embarrassing. We have not even appointed 2 million votes. So maybe I don't know whether people are disappointed or people are. Well, I don't know why people did not come up for this house. And somebody was alluding this, Miriam, and I'm sorry, I don't want to go that direction. But the people in Central Province did not come out for another party because they had no person. there is no front liner, there is no person who like in 2017 they had Uhuru Kenyatta, in 2013 they had Uhuru Kenyatta. And I don't think that allusion will, that assumption will be good for other people, because I don't want to be on that direction of that assumption that people did not come and vote because there was no person. I don't know whether it's because of confusion or I don't know. But all in all, I think people are getting tired. Let us be sincere. I think people are actually getting tired. People are seeing a scenario like this, that I'm going to queue for these long hours, and at the end of the day, when I go back to my house, I don't have hunger. I asked another person this morning, why is it that people have not gone out kutoka kupiga kura? And it is surprising. People are saying, Sasa, how am I going to queue in a queue week to Yaunga, and then I'm queuing on these other things? And I think there is also a misconception. People have been cheated. I think people have been cheated that these things are going to happen, and also a lot of tension, Miriam. Maybe whatever we are seeing in previous people are traveling, Miriam, after these leaflets and after threats were being peddled by politicians. Maybe that is what that as a result of that, people have not come out before. You are seeing, you get, Miriam, a place like registered voters are more than 300,000 registered voters in certain location. But you see, less than 100,000 people have come out to vote. It is actually embarrassing, and I think we need to change our mindset. This can whoever will win these elections, or which government, the government which will come out, Miriam, we need actually to change the mindset. We need to tell people to vote. We need to change the laws, Miriam. You see, after people maybe also, there are so many things which has happened prior to this general election, like removal of CDF, many court cases, many challenges, Miriam, and you see also postponement of these elections, like in Rongai, Miriam. You see, when you tell somebody that your elections have been postponed, maybe the same MP whom people were having hope with him, like Governor of Mombasa and Kakamega, Media. People, maybe I was actually going there because I want to vote for Governor so A and B. I want to vote because I'm voting for my man in Rongai. I'm going to vote for my man in Eldras. And you see, Miriam, when I not conducted this election, maybe people are demotivated. They didn't vote there. That is my thought, Miriam.
Okay, thank you so much. Samuel Tawish, what looked like very much so a voter apathy that we saw, especially in some regions yesterday, the low voter turnout. What do you make of this, especially in some specific regions?
Miriam, from the time we adopted multipartyism in Kenya, this is the first time ever in history where we've had a very low turnout, relatively low turnout when it comes to general election. Not even at 60%, if IEBC's statement is anything to go by. I think this factor is informed by so many other parameters, including one, Kenyans are battling with so many shortfalls, including high cost of living, high cost of fuel, and so many other challenges. You remember the issue of course, also the kids going to school, and there's so many challenges that the people of Kenya continue to face today. So I presume that to them, maybe going to vote has not been more of a priority to them. And coupled with the fact that, people tend to think like most of these challenges that they're facing are more somehow or in a way characterized with the way politicians have been carrying out their politics in the country. And when it comes to policy, for example, the high cost of living, Miriam, it is the same parliamentarians, the same politicians we went to vote for or to vote out yesterday are the people who are making these policies, legislations in the National Assembly. So to the people of Kenya, they feel like their problems begin and end with politicians. And that is why some of them does feel like there's absolutely no need to go and vote. There's also the issue to do with the IEBC's preparation ahead of this election, where most Kenyans really felt like maybe IEBC was not adequately prepared to oversee this very particular critical exercise. So it was a demoralizing factor in itself. It dampened the spirit or the hopes, and it didn't quite inspire so many people to go and cast their ballot yesterday. That's why we have a relatively low turnout in as far as casting of the vote is concerned yesterday, Miriam. You struggle to understand, Miriam, how come out of about 22 million registered Kenyans who are eligible really to vote yesterday, that you have a paltry 12 or so million Kenyans, almost equal to the number we had in the previous election, was it in 2017 or 2013, when we had a registered number of voters of about 14 million, and you could have 12 million Kenyans really coming out to vote, and are just about two abstaining or not, abstaining from participating in that exercise. So what informs this, of course, outcome today, where you have about almost 2 times of the registered number of voters. But again, the number of the people who came out to vote is almost the same as it were 5 years ago. So it does mean that so many Kenyans haven't quite taken this exercise such serious. Because one, for the lack of preparedness of IEBC, the perception that most Kenyans have had, and secondly, also Kenyans are facing unprecedented times that are very hard on them when it comes to the issue of high cost of living. And so they don't find it a priority really to go and vote. So Miriam, these are some of the things really that have demoralized Kenyans into going to participate in this exercise. And we hope that maybe in future they will find reason. Remember, we've always reminded Kenyans that it is important for them to participate in this exercise because, as the adage goes, bad leaders are elected by good people who do not vote. And surrendering to vote really is not a good thing, because by the end of the day, you're going to get the politicians or leaders being elected, those that you don't deserve, or those that you did not wish that are elected because you did not go and participate in this very civic duty. Miriam, I submit.
Okay. Sorry, thank you. Thank you so much. And I was just looking at the results as they are trickling in. And a place like Tharaka Nithi, we know it from the previous elections, I think. It's been known as a stronghold. And the number of registered voters in that region is about 231,935. And just slightly over 35,000 voters came out to vote. Registered number of voters is 231,932. But the Kenyans in that region who bother to come out to vote is a mere just slightly over 35,000 voters, so translating to about just 15%. And that has been seen replicated across regions, especially in Mount Kenya. And I think Anne Waiguru, I think yesterday after voting and later on, she said that this is the planting season. So that's why, maybe a lot of people went to the chambers to plant and all. But and of course some voters from that area was watching. I was seeing on social media, they're saying, they're tired. They're tired of the promises that have been made, and the leaders have not delivered. They're tired of being used as pawns. They're just tired because apparently they don't feel either of the presidential candidates who was running in this year's election has their interest at heart. And I think for somebody like the deputy president, who perhaps was banking on getting majority of the votes from Mount Kenya region, hopefully hoping that they would come out as they did when he was running with President Uhuru Kenyatta, what do you think this means for him? Of course, the results are still coming in, and it's a very close call between the two leading contenders, Raila Odinga and Deputy President William Ruto, but we can't really make a conclusive, right now. We can't be conclusive right now because the tallying is still continuing. So what will this mean, Kiptanui, when perhaps for maybe Deputy President who thought Mount Kenya region will come out to vote for him, as they did when he was running with the President Uhuru Kenyatta, but you can see majority of those polling stations did not even, voter turnout was not even 20%.
Miriam, I think I want actually to say this, that there are a lot of excuses that people are giving out, especially in Mount Kenya. It is coming out that there is a picture in Mount Kenya which is coming out, that when they don't have their person who is struggling for president, they are not coming out to vote. You see, the other time they had a lot of things, they were calling Kumeria, but congratulate Raila Odinga for having. Well, I think even when you see whatever is getting from Central Province is higher than what we got in 2017 and 2013 respectively. And I was expecting somebody like my brother William to get a lot of votes from Mount Kenya because he's been camping there for many years. And I want to tell you, Miriam, But it is still early, and actually, I want to tell our viewers to be calm. I want to tell everybody who is watching us on this television, because I know there are so many people that are watching us, to be calm. It's still early. Whether let us wait for IBC to release official results late at the course of the day or tomorrow or the other day. You see, when you see the trend, how results is trickling in Miriam from Central Province, it is disappointing for UDA and it's disappointing for William Ruto. I was expecting a place, especially a place like Sarakanidi and other places, to come out and see when the fourth happened in Central Province is worrying. I was actually expecting as individuals, because William Ruto has been camping around there, for this 10 months to get a lot of votes from there. But we see Miriam, by now, I thought William Ruto would have been leading by even 1 billion plus votes from that area. But as was I people did not come out. And it is not like the way they came out in 2013 and the way they came out in 2017. Look, Miriam, we have two scenarios here. We have two deputy presidents, they come from Central Province. Does it mean that these people from Central Province, they don't have confidence on these two guys, on the Gati Gachagua and Martha Karua, and they are wrong? It is a paradigm from us. And I think in future, people will be seeing Central Province as we want to have when you are a spender. I met another day yesterday and he told me you are not thinking, because these people, they didn't come out. Most of them, they opened their businesses and our Katema. We don't have a way to Israel or Dika will win as Misawa. If this other guy will win Misawa. I want to congratulate those people who came out from that region, who came out to vote. We are together and whoever will win. And at the end of the day, William, I have confidence that Raila Odinga is winning this president. You see, we cannot preempt, we cannot say anything by now, because when you see the most, I cannot access the polling stations and polling centers of the counties that are sending this vote. In Nakuru, Miriam, where I'm seated, almost 500 meters, we have a Nakuru railway. They have all the Nakuru railway stands by now. It stands in Nakuru, is where, Miriam, only 20 polling stations have been counted. These are the polling stations that there are almost 200 polling centers in that center, and they are still counting. So we cannot be empty this, but we wish Raila Odinga all the best, and actually let us know what is happening. Why is it that people are not coming out? Why is it that people have lost? Is it that people have lost job in this country? Thank you, Miriam.
Okay, and a place like Laikipia, of course, Ruto led by 69.93%, gathering votes just slightly over 17,000, and Raila got there about 7,000 votes, about 28.91% of the votes that were cast yesterday. That is in Laikipia. In Nyandarua, William Ruto is leading with 42,720, and so he garnered about 78.86% of those votes in Nyandarua County. Raila, interestingly, in Nyandarua, garnered about 10,763,000, so slightly about 90 short, almost 20%, but just about 19.87%. And then in Tharaka Nithi, as I've said, William Ruto got 89.09%, and Raila had 9.45%, and I told you the voter turnout was just slightly over 35,000, with William Ruto getting 32,000 of those votes and Raila settling at slightly over 3,000 votes. And then in Nyeri, William Ruto had 63,708 votes with a lead of 83.12%, and Raila garnered about 11,802, just slightly over 15% of the votes that were cast in Nyeri County. In Murang'a, William Ruto had 63,908 votes, that translating to 80.80%, with Raila Odinga just coming in a distant second with 14,030 votes, translating to 17.74%. And in Embu, William Ruto had 25,712 votes. That translates to 83.47% of the votes that were cast yesterday, and Raila was able to garner about 4,610. Just almost 15% of the votes that were casted in Kiambu. William Ruto, of course, still leading in 59,311, translating to 75.64% of the votes, and Raila having 17,832, translating to 22.74%. And I think Nakuru also was a cosmopolitan city there, with William Ruto leading the pack, garnering 74,083 votes, a total of 69.94% of the votes that were cast in Nakuru, and Raila was able to get about 30,358, and translating to 28.66%. And let's look at Meru, where William Ruto got 76,000 votes, 801, translating to 78.74%, and Raila Odinga managed to get 19,148. That translates to 19.63%. When I'm reading these figures, and Douglas Kirimi, you just joined us, a very good morning to you.
A very good morning to you, Miriam Ogutu, also to Kiptanui Savenia and Oresi Sanal Tawish.
So just, I know you're listening to these figures I was reading, especially from the Mount Kenya region. How do you translate that?
Miriam, these people write to William Ruto. I don't trust Kikuyus. I don't trust anyone in central Kenya. William Ruto has been coming to Mount Kenya every weekend, Miriam. He has been contributing to their own Arambes and everything, but they have not turned out to vote for William Ruto en masse. These people have also been like his own stronghold. I do not trust these people who write to William Ruto that we are going to deliver 190% to you of the total votes that are registered in our regions. These people, Miriam, went ahead to campaign for themselves using William Ruto's popular party, but they did not translate into presidential votes. These people are hypocrites, Miriam, and I think William Ruto should also know how to deal with them going forward, because how can you deliver victory for yourself?
But we can't balkanize a whole community like that. When you say these people, it doesn't come off very...
No. I'm not talking about communities, Miriam. I'm talking about leaders.
The leaders.
Yes, people like Medeka Rinturi have been taking money from William Ruto to campaign for him, but they have not even delivered their own seats, Miriam. I'm talking about communities. I'm from Mount Kenya, Miriam. And we need to also caution these people who have been lying to William Ruto, taking his money. Medeka Rinturi, Kaduri Murunge, and others, Miriam. You cannot deliver your own seat, and you cannot deliver for your principle. If William Ruto does not get the huge percentages that the Nyoro is getting in Murang'a and others in other counties, Miriam, it is wrong for us to continue lying to William Ruto that we will use his party to also garner support for him, but get support for ourselves, but not for William Ruto. If you look at the way William Ruto has performed in Mount Kenya, Miriam, a man that used to come here almost every weekend, it's dismal performance, Miriam. It is not pleasing to the eye. It is not what even was expected for him to be able to perform, Miriam. But for me, I don't begrudge William Ruto. He has done well for himself. But for the people who have surrounded him in Mount Kenya, Miriam, they ride to him in the popular version of Warikura Fair. Like, you cannot take William Ruto's money and not deliver the presidential votes to him. People 2013 delivered to Uhuru for him. For 4 years, he's been coming here and you don't do anything for him. But also, another significant thing as an analyst, I need to also bring to the fore is that the performance of Raila Odinga in Mount Kenya region. Places like Gatanga, where he used to get 0 in some polling stations, he has garnered votes, 100 votes, 200 votes, and that is very commendable for him. And remember, he has not been campaigning in those places, Miriam. And I've also seen a significant people shift from Munya's backyard. Munya's totally delivered from the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, and also he has delivered the seat for Azimio. The Honorable Mporo Aburi has won against the strong wave of UDA in Meru, and especially in their own backyard of Tigania East, Munya and Mporo Aburi have delivered their part, and we congratulate them for that, against a very strong William Ruto's support in Tigania East constituency medium. And also remember, in Igembe Central, Raila has also been able to bag a seat for Azimio under Dan Karitho, and also UDA has also performed decently for the MP seat, but also William Ruto has performed well in Igembe Central, where Kubai Kerengo comes from. And all these people, Miriam, who are involved in the presidential campaigns, we need to also ask the presidential contenders in the next dispensation to also concentrate in delivering their own vote. Do not trust leaders to deliver that, especially leaders that are defending their seats, especially those people that are seeking seats where you're seeking your own medium. Because that's where the disconnect from my perspective is for William Ruto. William Ruto's performance in Mount Kenya could have been higher if he had not trusted people like Mithika Linturi or any other person that would have who diverted presidential campaign fund to their own campaign to be funded Miriam. And I also believe, Miriam, we need to also give it up to them, to people like UDA people. In Muranga, they have swept everything, Miriam. They have not left anything for even an independent person. They were very merciless, including in Nyeri, Miriam. So for me, it's a win for Kenya. Let's move on as a country. Whoever becomes our president makes it for the next 10 years. I have no reservation for whoever becomes president, including who became my MCA. It's the will of the people. We need to accept and move on as a country. It is a peaceful moment for us as a country. If you are defeated in an election, please wait for another 5 years, or you can retire like Moses Kuria. Because, Miriam, at this point, we cannot tell people what to do after they have voted. They have already voted. They have decided their leaders are these ones. This is who is going to become my MP. In Meru, they have chased Kiraito Murungi of Azimio home. They have also voted for Kawira Mwangaza to be the woman representatives. But I also underlined that for about 3 weeks ago, and I said why Kiraito Murungi is most likely going home. And I said that Mithika Linturi and Kiraito Murungi are not going to become governors in Meru. But for Kawira Mwangaza, it's a win for women. Congratulations, and others, so that we can build Meru and also build Kenya at large as it is. If Azimio becomes president, if UDA becomes president, our country moves on. People like Kiraito Murungi have already considered defeat and moved on, Miriam, because at this point they can't win. Thank you.
All right. And just going through the results this morning, the areas where DP, Ruto and Raila have been able to get over 90% is their strongholds in Nyanza and also in parts of Rift Valley. But I'd like for us to look at Western, because that is something we know two leaders from that region were tasked to deliver the votes for Kenya Kwanza, in these elections. That is Mudavadi and Wetangula. And Wetangula seems to have done very well in Bungoma with the votes cast. William Ruto garnering 60,152 votes, translating to 64.17% of the votes from Bungoma County. Sorry. And then Raila Odinga got 31,377, translating to 33.47% of the votes in Bungoma County. And then let's go to Vihiga. Raila Odinga got 29,658 votes, translating to 61.37%. William Ruto getting 17,570, translating to 36.34%. So even in Bungoma, where Ruto is leading, he only got 64%, and Vihiga, Raila led with 61%. And let me see another Western Kenya, Busia. Raila Odinga led with 77,631 votes, translating to 81.68% of the votes. And William Ruto got 15,888 votes, translating to 16.70% of the votes that were garnered there in Busia County. So Ruto has been able to lead in one. And in Trans Nzoia, William Ruto led with 33,185 votes, translating to 50.23% of the votes, and Raila Odinga 31,982. translating to 48.41%. And we know this was perceived, and as we've seen in the early election periods, Raila Odinga has been garnering a lot of votes from this region. But as much as Wetangula and Mudavadi have not delivered the over 70% that they had promised of the votes in that region. But Kenya Kwanza has done significantly well, considering this was Raila Odinga's stronghold, like we've seen in the previous elections before. Samuel Tawish.
Well, Miriam, you'll be forgiven really to make that assumption that Kenya Kwanza has made rather significant inroads in as far as western part of Kenya is concerned.
Yes.
For one, Miriam, when you look into Bungoma County, to some extent really felt like their son had been, their son had gone through some political persecution rather by Raila Amolo Odinga. Because of the whipping of course, Moses Wetangula, the Bungoma senator, from his minority seat in the Senate. And of course, that's our relationship between Raila Amolo Odinga and Moses Wetangula, and to some extent, Musalia Mudavadi. You remember Moses Wetangula was with Raila Odinga in 2013 general election. And in 2017, Musalia Mudavadi also came to the fold. And so we had these two leading Luhya politicians really on the side of Raila Odinga in 2017 general election. The same cannot be said today. In fact, you will give it to Raila Odinga because even in the face of Mudavadi really joining hands with the Deputy President William Ruto and forming the Kenya Kwanza coalition, still Raila Odinga is leading in Vihiga County, the hometown of one Musalia Mudavadi. Raila Odinga is still leading in Kakamega, the perceived bastion of the so-called the Luhya kingpins, that is Musalia Mudavadi and Moses Wetangula. You go to Busia today, you've rightly just read out the results from Busia, and I can see Raila Odinga has got over 77,000 votes from, of course, Busia County. What does that tell you? When you come to Bungoma, much as William Ruto is leading in Bungoma County, but again, Raila Odinga has got a substantial vote also in Bungoma County. So by and large, I think what could have informed this voting pattern in these parts of the country is simply because of the Wetangula factor in Bungoma specifically, and also Bukusus traditionally, it is from history politically, they have never really voted the same way with the rest of the Luhyas in the western part of Kenya. Normally when the people from Kakamega, Vihiga, and Busia vote the other side, Bungoma always votes the opposite. That's why you saw even in the previous elections, when most people in Bungoma County were voting for a particular presidential candidate, the others were also on the opposite side. That is why you see today, William Ruto is having a smooth sailing in Bungoma County, and it's not as easy or as rosy as you would expect in Vihiga, Busia, and Kakamega, where the former Deputy Prime Minister Musalia Mudavadi was expected really to deliver a 70+% of votes in favor of Deputy President William Ruto. So it's going to be a very big headache, even if Deputy President William Ruto, assuming he were to win this election, for Musalia Mudavadi to get even the slot that he had been promised. Because for one, he had to deliver 70+% of votes from the larger western part of Kenya. And you authoritatively say, Miriam, that this far, as Mudavadi even delivered, Mudavadi and Wetangula have delivered even 40% of the total vote in western part of Kenya. That is not a true, Miriam. So it is still a very big challenge on the part of those politicians from those sides. On the part of Trans Nzoia County, Miriam, you understand this is more of a cosmopolitan county. There are so many Kenyans living in that particular region, and you'll not quite say there's a majority in terms of tribal inclination. You wouldn't quite say it's more of Kalenjin or more of Luyas or a mix-up of different other tribes really living in that particular county. And that is why you see that in as much as William Ruto is leading in Trans Nzoia, I believe the difference between the two is so negligible to the extent that it's about 1,000, if I'm not very wrong, and that the counting of votes still continues. You may not really know who is going to take the lead in as far as Trans Nzoia County is concerned. So yes, I will agree that Raila Odinga has made quite a very serious onslaught, or rather assault, in the western part of Kenya, and giving a very big indictment on Musalia Mudavadi and Moses Wetangula as the perceived, quote-unquote, the kingpins of the Luhya politics. I submit.
Very well, thank you. Kiptanui, Savania, 70% that Mudavadi and Wetangula was supposed to get here for Kenya Kwanza. Do you see this translating?
It might not be possible for them to garner 70%, Miriam. Though I have not seen the trend of Western, it might not be possible for them to garner this 70%. And what will happen if they will not garner this 70%? I think the deal, you see, Miriam, most of the things that shocked me is that even in the ballot paper,
I apologize there. We seem to be having a bit of a technical hitch from Kiptanui Savania, who is joining us this morning from Nakuru. Kiptanui? All right. Once you're able to join us back, I'll have you. Go ahead. Okay. Not too good. We are having a bit of a technical hitch there. I think I will move on. Unless, Douglas, you have something that you could add to the conversation on the Western votes before we move on to other counties that also are considered to be swing counties. Douglas. Okay. So let's go to Ukambani and see how the three counties did. Ukambani has 3 counties, that is Kitui, Makueni, and Machakos. So let's start with Kitui. Raila Odinga garnered 38,634 votes, translating to 70.62% of the votes that were cast yesterday. William Ruto got 14,856 votes, translating to 27.15% of the votes that were cast there. And then, let me get you, Makueni County, Raila Odinga got 56,358 and 53 votes, translating to 79,069%. And William Ruto got 13,741 votes, translating to 19.43%. So Raila also is leading in the second county in Ukambani. Kitui, he got, let me just remind us that Kitui, he got 70.62% of the votes, getting 38,634. And now in Makueni, he's also leading with 79.69% of the votes, with 56,353 votes. So let's look for Machakos County. Raila Odinga is also leading with 47,178 votes, translating to 76.88% of the votes that were cast yesterday. And William Ruto is coming in second with 12,821. Translating to 20.89% of these votes. Samuel Tawish. Samuel Tawish. All right, Douglas Kirimi. You can go ahead. I apologize. We seem to be having some technical hitch there. Tawish, I see you there. I don't know if you've had the figures I've read from the 3 counties in Ukambani, where Raila is leading with over 70% in all those counties.
Absolutely, Miriam. And I think this is informed by the fact that you have, almost all the notable politicians coming from the larger lower eastern region, or Ukambani, if you like, really are on the side of Azimio, beginning with, of course, Kalonzo Musyoka, who was the running mate for Raila Odinga in both the 2013 and 2017 general election. And you're also having all the 2 governors, that is Charity Ngilu, who is the sitting, of course, and outgoing governor in Kitui County, really supporting Raila Amolo Odinga. You go to Makueni also, Professor Kibutha Kibwana was supporting Raila Odinga, among other key notable figures from the larger Ukambani region, because we all understand that the three counties of Ukambani are largely dominated by the Kambas, and by virtue of their political kingpins, if I should put it that way, are really subscribed to Raila Amolo Odinga, and that is why you see a huge number of them really came out to vote and voted in favor of Raila Amolo Odinga. They did it in 2013, 2017, and this time around again, because if Kalonzo Musyoka had, assuming he had gone for the presidency, had he lived up to the threat that he was going up to the ballot, then probably would have seen a big number of these votes really going to Kalonzo Musyoka, and Raila Odinga would have lost in the three counties of Machakos, Kitui, and Makueni. So because of the factor of Kalonzo Musyoka and those key politicians I've mentioned, really that's why you see Raila Odinga has continued to maintain the lead in these parts of the country. And Deputy President William Ruto is a man I suppose has suffered somehow a setback, if I should put it that way, because maybe he was expecting by roping in the Machakos governor, Dr. Alfred Mutua, as well as the former senator and UDA chair, that is Johnston Duya Mudhama, to his fold, that probably it was going to tilt the numbers in his favor, but that has not since come to happen or come to pass. So yes, Raila Odinga continues to lead in the larger Ukambani region, and we anticipate even as the counting of votes continues, they will be able to lead in the final tally in the three counties of Ukambani, that is Machakos, Makueni, and Kitui. Miriam, I submit.
All right, thank you so much. Kiptanui, we had a bit of a technical hitch earlier. I don't know if you're able to hear me now.
I'm sorry for that.
Yes.
I'm sorry for that technical hitch.
You can conclude your thought on the Western votes before you come into the Ukambani ones, because I think you're trying to say something there before we suffer that technical hitch.
Yes. Miriam, thank you. I have actually perused and see somebody posted that Wetangula is at 64, and I don't know whether it's true, but Wetangula might deliver. Maybe Wetangula might deliver because of Kusus, but my brother Mudavadi might not deliver that 70% which was supposed to be delivered for him to get that deal.
You say, hold on. You're saying deliver as far as Bungoma is concerned?
Yes.
Yes, let me just, because I do have the figures here that we have received so far.
Yes.
So let me just give that to you. Yes, I said Wetangula seems to have done a good job here. He was able to bring to William Ruto 60,152 votes, translating to 64.17% against Raila Odinga, who only got 31,152 votes, who got 31,377 votes, translating to 33.47%. So yes, Bungoma, Kenya Kwanza, William Ruto seems to have done very well there with over 64% of the votes that were cast yesterday. Go ahead.
You see, let me comment something. You see, Wetangula actually he has an effect, a Kukuso effect that actually might have assisted him to bring those votes here. And he has been a seasoned politician. You see, Musalia Mudavadi has been outside the politics for some time. You remember Moses Wetangula is the senator for Bungoma, and I want to congratulate him. He has actually brought William Ruto the same vote. Now let me come to Ukambani, where we are 70% on almost all the counties of Ukambani. And as I told you, Miriam, the only person who's outside in Ukambani is Alfred Mutua and the chairman for UDA, Mr. Mudhama. And you see, Ukambani, if we could have lost Kalonzo Musyoka to somewhere, we might have not delivered, because they still hear the voice from their man, Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka. And these people have been actually uniting. They have shown a very tremendous improvement. They have shown a very tremendous support to Azimio la Umoja, Miriam. And these are the people of Miriam we are forming the next government. Let us make sure they get a good slot in this government, Miriam. Because they have delivered. Actually, 70% is good. They have delivered. Unlike their people in their brothers and sisters in Central Province. So you see, we want to congratulate these people, Miriam, and want to support them. There is something, Miriam, I'm actually coming to my terms, especially in Nandi County. You see, there is things that are happening over there, Miriam. That the same people who are in independent are being thrown out. after William Ruto went there and told these people to vote for food. And I want to side with my brother, with my brother Douglas Chirimi, that Miriam, the problem is not in quotas, the problem is not in people, the problem is in Yongozi Miriam. It has come to my NNA. It has come to my mind that most of these leaders, Miriam, are cheating people. Like they have also cheated William Ruto. They have also cheated Raila Odinga. They have squandered a lot of money and they are not delivering. So when we come to auditing of this election, Miriam, we need to shut these politicians out of this, Miriam. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for that. Douglas Kiribi, Ukambani. And there seems to, even with the back and forth with Kalonzo Musyoka, there seems to have still have some love for Raila Odinga. Must be Kalonzo factor, but also Raila Odinga has gotten these votes there before, and we've seen they have not disappointed, because we know also this was the battlegrounds and it could have gone either way.
Thank you, Miriam. I don't trust the back and forth with Kalonzo Musyoka was very necessary, because also we've seen the Ukambani people defy Kalonzo Musyoka and elect people like Alfred Mutua, Governor for Makueni, Professor Kivutha Kibwana, and also Charity Ngilu of NAC. So basically, Miriam, if his own county would vote for Charity Ngilu in 2017, and in 2017 they would vote for Muungano Party or Makueni Governor Kivutha Kibwana, actually was said to have gone to Wiper, and also Machakos Governor of Chapchap, I would have thought that Raila and also his team would have thought Kalonzo factor would not have really added anything to their side. Because these people, the way they have been behaving in the past, Miriam would have predicted their future. And also now we've seen truly that now if you want to get to Ukambani, you can do it on your own and get your own percentage without a huge pay that the people are paying, the huge price that they are paying for Kalonzo Musyoka to be on their side. Kalonzo Musyoka totally has not delivered anything for Raila Odinga. I would not say he has delivered anything, but so far so good. It is the will of the people. They are also Kenyans, and also if it is Azimio or UDA, Miriam, at this point my heart is very open and my mind is also very open-minded. I believe that the people have spoken and those are the leaders that they want, and if it is a president a particular county has voted for, it is the will of the people and they have decided that this is the person that I want to lead me for the next 5 years. It is their civic duty and it is their responsibility to vote for leaders that they want. For me, I have nothing to write home about Ukambani, Miriam, because at the end of the day, they have shown us before what they can do. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. And we are joined by Dr. Joseph Nyanchama, I believe, from Nairobi. Dr. Nyanchama, good morning to you. Okay, he seems to have, he's joining. Once he's able to talk to us, then we will put him through. Let's look at another county that also was considered a swing county, and that is Kisii County. And Raila Odinga is leading with 61,405 votes, translating to 64.09% of the votes that were cast yesterday. William Ruto came in second with 32,735 votes, translating to 34.16% of the votes that were cast yesterday. Tawish, are you surprised by how things turned out in Kisii? Or you were expecting?
Well, Miriam, there's not so much of a surprise, or rather something that is that's deviated from the status quo in as far as the larger Kisii region is concerned. That is Nyamira and, of course, Kisii counties. Because, for one, the political bigwigs who come from that particular region really are supporting Raila Amolo Odinga, from those who are serving in government to those who are elected as governor, and also a huge chunk of those who are elected as members of parliament really are supporting Raila Amolo Odinga. And therefore, by default, you just expect that these particular two counties are going to vote in favor of Raila Amolo Odinga. And that's why you see the numbers are coming up, but they are coming up and in favor of Raila Amolo Odinga. That is not to say that Deputy President William Ruto has also made some inroads in these parts of Kisii, because we have also seen him at least gain some votes in those particular regions, although not so much in terms of the impact. But again, it is Raila Odinga's, of course, to carry the day in parts of Kisii, that is Nyamira County and Kisii County, Miriam.
Okay. All right. Captain Nui, are you surprised by the voting pattern from Kisii?
I'm not surprised, Miriam. I'm not surprised by that pattern, because in history, Kisii has been supporting ODM so much, and we are expecting much from them. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So let's, I don't know, Douglas, would you like to say something on the Kisii votes there? Raila leading that pack.
Thank you, Miriam. For me, I expected that Dr. Freddy Matiang'i, Sam Ongeri, and others would do a more thorough job in Kisii and Nyamira counties, but so far I'm not impressed really 100%, but so far so good. It is the will of the people. Even if Matiang'i would have come in each and everyone's home, he would have voted on his own, and also he would have also accepted to the fact that the people would go around and vote for their preferred leaders, and also the performance from both camps. It is a well fought race, and also you've finished your course, and now it is up to the people to also decide on the way that they shall go. You campaigned in Kisii, you campaigned in Nyamira, but the people have also made up their mind on the way that they shall go. And remember, Miriam, that this vote is very important, especially based on the fact that the people have decided on who will be their leaders. And that fact cannot be gainsaid. It can't be taken away from the people. It's their civic duty, and it is their responsibility to also determine on their way forward. But I expected fireworks based on the fact that Kisii was earmarked to be a very, very serious as a new stronghold, but so far so good. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for our viewers. Continue writing. Joseph, good morning. Charles Bunga, Samuel Yatich, Joseph Mutiaba, you're saying Kenya is not Africa due to water moting in the election count. Big up Kenya and keep up the democracy. I don't know if you're from Uganda, you could correct me. And you're also saying Kenya is not, all right, so you're saying whatever is happening, we have not seen it. And yesterday, I saw a few people tweeting from Uganda, no, since Monday, the eve of our elections, and they're saying, I can't believe we have a neighboring country going to its elections tomorrow, and we don't see the internet being cut off. We don't see a heavy presence of military on the streets of Nairobi and across the country. And they were just surprised, because that is quite the opposite of what happens, especially in a country like Uganda. We saw what happened last year when they went to the elections. Well, I'll tell you what, we have fought for this democracy, and somebody like Raila has been on the forefront. The Second Liberators, among others, who literally gave their lives to fight the regime that we had in this country for 24 strong years. And it was not easy for us to sit here and enjoy the freedoms that we are enjoying today, that we really don't take for granted. We can sit here and talk and criticize even the government itself. I mean, we have come a long way. So you keep on demanding and keep on fighting the good fight. Maybe one day you will not have to have your internet being switched off because the country is having an election. Kenya, we are back on, as much as we're messed up. We're not 100%. But it's still a work in progress for us, and we're happy with the little gains that we're able to make as a country. And so it is a very dynamic democracy here. And the elections happened yesterday, and all the results from 34As from all the polling stations are being uploaded in the IEBC, that is the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission's website, and the commission that is responsible for these elections, and anybody can access these forms. So I think this will go a long way in ensuring checks and balances, and hopefully no monkey business. And at the end of the day, when we have an election done that Kenyans perceive to be, free from any interference, then despite of who gets to win these elections, Kenyans will move on in peace. I think that is our prayer, and that is what we're looking for. So, Joseph Mutiaba, you're wondering if Kenya is in Africa and, the democracy here. Well, Kenyans, we appreciate the freedoms that we have, and we will fight to keep them, and that's how we like it. So we will still keep fighting until it gets better. But thank you so much for watching, and for those who are watching, you can let me know where you're watching us from this morning. Let's get to the Coast Province, Mombasa. Raila got 20,998 votes, translating to 57.74%. So remember, some of these are still being tallied, and I think a place like Mombasa, it has a big number of people who are registered to vote. So I don't know if the low turnout had to do with the cancelled governor elections, because Raila winning 20,998 votes. That's still very low, as much as he's leading, but that's still very low compared to the number of registered voters in Mombasa County. So he got the 57.74% of the votes from Mombasa. Ruto got 14,556, translating to 40.02% of the votes. And then let's go to... I'm skipping the strongholds. Like in Nyanza, Luo Nyanza, you already know Raila will carry the day. In Rift Valley, in the Kalenjin region, you already know Ruto will carry the day. That's why I'm not wasting so much time in this area, because we already know it's easier. And Raila and Ruto are getting over 90% of the votes in this region, so we will not labor so much on that. But I want us to look at these areas that are considered to be swing states, and Coast Province is just one of those. Let me see if we can get Kilifi. Raila is leading with 59,687 votes, translating to 72.28%. William Ruto is coming in second with 20,898 votes, translating to 25.30% of the votes that were cast there in Kilifi County. Let's move on to Kwale. Raila Odinga has 42,410 votes, translating to 69.05%. William Ruto was able to get 18,019 votes. That is 29.34% of the votes that were cast yesterday. And then let me see if I can get another one. Lamu. Raila Odinga got only 2,980 votes, translating to 52.65%. William Ruto got 2,467 votes, translating to 43.58%. You can also see the voter apathy there from Lamu County. So as much as Raila Odinga is leading in these coastal counties, Tawish, but the turnout there really is not something to celebrate.
Yes, indeed, Miriam. You'll agree with me. Just like the turnout nationally really has not been that impressive. It is affected by some of these key regions, including the coastal part of Kenya that you have just read out. And, coastal region has all along or traditionally been Raila Odinga's political bastion. In 2007, 2013, 2017, and now 2022. It was widely expected that Raila Amolo Odinga was going to bag so many of the votes in the coastal region, and I think nothing has come as a surprise to us. And I also give it to Deputy President William Ruto, because he's trying to make very serious assault and inroads in most parts of the coastal region. Because again, in as much as Raila Odinga has won in most or all of these counties, you notice that Deputy President William Ruto has equally gotten a substantial number of votes in those particular regions. So yes, the DP has tried its best also to scoop a bit of the votes from the coastal region. But as it was widely anticipated, Raila Odinga is bagging most of the votes in the coastal region, and I'm very sure by the end of the day, will be the person who will have scored or gotten the many votes, or actually won in all the counties in the coastal region. So what does it then mean, Miriam? What has affected this particular vote generally, I think, is the low voter turnout. And that's why you are reading about Lamu County, for instance. How can a presidential candidate just in a whole county get less than 5,000 votes and is leading? You see DP Ruto and former Prime Minister Raila Odinga actually almost tying at almost 2,000 each votes in that particular county of Lamu. It does tell you that there's a very big voter apathy in that particular region, or a very low voter turnout. We're not yet sure why did it happen so, Miriam. When you come to Mombasa, you also understand that the people of Mombasa are not going to vote for the gubernatorial seat by virtue of what happened. The mix-up of the ballot papers in Mombasa and Kakamega County, and the IEBC had, of course, to defer the elections in the gubernatorial elections in those particular regions, and to some extent also has contributed a lot to low voter turnout, because there are people who are going to vote in this election because simply they're supporting a particular aspirant in the gubernatorial race. And so if the election for the gubernatorial seat is not taking place, then most of these people will take a back seat and they will not go and participate in this exercise. That is why you see there's relatively low turnout in Mombasa County. Miriam, I submit.
All right. And also, of course, Taita Taveta, I forgot also that is one of the counties from the coast region, with Raila leading with 37,357 votes. That is about 73.04% of the votes that were cast yesterday. William Ruto coming in second with 12,641. And also Tana River, I believe, is one of those, yes, with Raila leading with 11,485 votes, translating to 56.55%, and William Ruto coming in second at 8,366. So Raila is still leading in these coastal counties, but as you said that I've mentioned earlier, the margins and the voter turnout there was quite low. So as much as he's leading, the lead might not really tilt the scale so much when you look at other areas where Ruto is leading, especially in his strongholds, where we have a huge number of registered voters, and a good percentage of the voters, out there came to vote. So, okay, I think that is Dr. Nyanchama. Dr. Nyanchama, good morning to you.
Oh, good morning, Miriam.
Mm-hmm. So we are looking at the voting today, and I don't know if you voted yesterday, and what was your experience? We are looking at the tallying of the figures today. We voted yesterday.
Oh, thank you very much, Miriam and fellow panelists. You see, there are a lot of dynamics, and it came as a surprise to many people, especially the turnout. And you see, when there is low turnout, Miriam, the variables are very many, and it is very difficult for even analysts to predict who is likely to win. Because for you to solve a problem, even mathematically, you must keep some variables constant. And in this case, the variable of low turnout, which you cannot really quantify, people may think you are leading only to discover that you are leading with very low margins, and this may really affect you. In fact, the way this analysis should be done to determine is to do a comparative analysis with what happened in 2017. When you do that comparative analysis, you are able to isolate a constant variable. Let me give an example where I voted, for example, in Nyamira and Kisii, for example. What I'm trying to say, Miriam, for example, in Nyamira and Kisii, in 2017, in Kisii County, Uhuru got 54% of the votes, while Raila Odinga got around 68%. So if Ruto now, we would assume that if Ruto has to be ahead of Raila, he has to get at least 54%, and 54%, and Raila gets 68%, but maintaining the same turnout, which in this case is lower. You know, it complicates things there. If you come to Nyamira, for example, Uhuru got around 54%. Then Raila got 46%. Similarly, if you have to predict who's likely to be ahead, then Uhuru, right? Ruto has to replace Uhuru, and Raila remains. But now again, what complicates is the raw turnout, a very complicated variable. So Miriam, for analysts, it becomes now very difficult, and we have to be very cautious simply using the fact that someone is leading. We have now to look at the real quantities. That is why always low turnout now complicates things even for analysts. So in short, you asked me questions, what I experienced. My experience is that the low turnout has complicated things even for the most prudent analysts, and they are very cautious when they do the analysis for the public. Miriam, for now, I submit.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Nyanchama. And let's get back to the capital city of Kenya, that is Nairobi City. And for right now, Raila is leading with a number of votes standing at 63,879, translating to 57.557%. William Ruto has 44,512, standing at 40.12%, and George Wajakoya had 567 of those votes, standing at 0.51%, and David Mwaure Wahiga got 416, so standing at 0.37%. Wajakoya and Wahiga seems to have done well in Nairobi County, and Wajakoya also did well in Tharaka Nithi. I think he garnered about 222 votes, standing at 0.61% of the votes that were cast yesterday. But Raila have voted, has received a lot of votes. And from what I think we're still waiting for the official announcements of the governor race, the senator race, and maybe the members of parliament. But as for right now, Azimio seems to be winning here, with Raila Odinga leading with 57.57%. Are we likely to see that translate as far as the elective positions for Azimio are concerned, or it's going to be a mixture of, other Kenya Kwanza and Azimio as well, judging from this, from the percentage here and the people who came to vote yesterday, Douglas?
Miriam, for example, I also agree with the analysis from Dr. Joseph Nyanchama.
Okay. We have a bit of a problem. Helen Omukoko, hello, good morning, and thank you for watching. Douglas, can you hear me? Douglas, good morning. Okay, I'll move on to Kiptanui. In Nairobi, Raila is leading with 63,879 votes, standing at 57.57% of the votes that were cast yesterday. William Ruto coming in second with 44,519 votes, translating to 40.12% of the votes that were Kenyans voted yesterday. And, I'm a city voter, so I voted as well yesterday. So as much as Azimio is winning, as in Raila is winning this, is this likely to translate in all other elective positions, or Nairobi is going to be a mixed bag of everything?
No, it cannot translate that. Remember, in 2017, Raila Odinga won in Nairobi. And who was the governor? The governor came from PDP. So there is a possibility of Sakaja winning Nairobi. So in Nairobi, politics in Nairobi are dynamic. You see, somebody is telling me in the election corridor of UDA is Pinson Ado in Langata. So I think, Miriam, there will be a mix. It cannot Raila actually will be winning in Nairobi, but we might be surprised to get a mixed up of other leaders from MCA to the governor. That is my take.
Okay. Sawish, yes. And of course, from what I was hearing in the morning, of course, I think Kenya Kwanza governor candidate, Sakaja, from what I was hearing, had an early lead, but we've not seen results, official results to ascertain this. And Nairobi is very interesting as far as the voters are concerned. They don't do the six. They're able to look at individuals and see I can choose an MCA from this party, and then I can choose a member of parliament from the other party. It's never one. There's always a mixture. And so as much as Azimio and Raila Odinga is leading in Nairobi, are we likely to see the rest of the other elective positions also falling towards the Azimio side?
Well, Miriam, there's going to be a very serious upset as far as these election results are concerned. And that is why you see the calls by these politicians and leading presidential candidates for a six-piece vote is not bearing fruit, or not all of them really are queuing into that thought that they have to vote in a six-piece from the president down to the MCA. And you're likely going to see, for example, if Raila Odinga happens to win this election, maybe we're going to have a number of other elected leaders in Nairobi County really elected on various other parties and not necessarily from the Azimio La Umoja One Kenya coalition. This is informed by the fact of the choice of the candidates. There are so many factors really that are at play. One is about the choice of candidates. Another one is the issue of the gender. Another one is how best the integrity of this candidate and how best they are able to sell their agenda and manifesto to the electorates in the run-up to this particular election. So yes, Miriam, we are going to have a very serious upset in as far as this election is concerned, as voting continues, Miriam. In fact, as you have been reading through and as you continue even to watch on various other media stations, you get to notice that there are so many casualties. People we had not hoped that they are going to lose in this election. Take, for example, Moses Kuria, who's been a very big noisemaker when it comes to social media and giving presence every now and then. You'll imagine that is the man who was going to win Kiambu gubernatorial seat as early as 6 a.m. But there you go. Moses Kuria already lost.
To be fair,
gubernatorial.
Tawish, to be fair, nobody really thought he was going to win the Kiambu gubernatorial, because we were looking at even the polling, the polls had really put him at a distance 5, I think, if I'm not wrong.
Well,
so
when you look at the court of public opinion and perception, there's that feeling by, of course, Moses Kuria supporters that probably was going to be elected as the next governor of Kiambu County. But that said and done, Miriam, it was just but an example. What I was basically trying to say is that we are going to have, whoever is going to win the presidential election is not going to have a complete suit from the president to the MCA. We are going to have different other parties and coalitions coming in between, be it governor, be it senator, women rep, member of National Assembly, senator, and member of county assembly. We are going to see these individuals actually being elected on different tickets. If I should just give you an example of what is happening. Say, for example, in Busia County as we speak now. Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga of ODM, or Azimio La Umoja, has already backed so many of the votes in Busia County as we speak now. Over 80,000 of the votes are counted. And the gubernatorial seat is likely also going to one Dr. Paul Nyongesa Otuoma of ODM. But when you get to the senator seat, senatorship, you get Okia Omtata of NRA is actually winning over the ODM candidate Hilary Itela. And when now we get to the MCA, the member of National Assembly, the incumbent governor who was actually gunning for the Teso South parliamentary seat, Honorable Sospita Odeke Ojamong, is losing actually to the UDA candidate, that is Honorable Mary Emase. And when you even go to the Teso North, you'll get almost a similar scenario. When you go to Nambale, it's almost a similar scenario where the elected MP, the MP elect now in Nambale constituency is one who went on an independent ticket, one who goes by the name Mulanya. So what does it basically tell you? That by the end of the day, we are going to have these individuals really win, but the people who will have been elected down there will be from different coalitions, if not different political parties. Miriam, I submit.
Thank you. Dr. Nyanchama, just going through the figures from Nairobi County, how do you make of the Nairobi voters? Are we that liberal?
I think going by the earlier question you asked, which Tawis responded, I think from my own perspective, I wouldn't classify them in parties now. I will put them in two families, the Azimio family and then the Kenya Kwanza family, because they were campaigning on that basis. So it's important that you put the basket on the two families, and then from there, the analysis then can be discerned further. For me, the way I look at it, Miriam, is that as much as Raila Odinga is leading in Nairobi, going to dominate Nairobi is seats generally, having classified the two, is actually the Azimio family. But there would be here and there the Kenya Kwanza. Remember, Miriam, if you look at the governor, for example, the candidate, Sakaja is in Jubilee. And remember, the family that won the Nairobi was from Jubilee, I believe. And what now will determine who wins this seat, for example, is what we call the transition matrix, whether Sakaja was in Jubilee, who retained his support base as much as he moved to ANC, whether he would make ODM supporters who are from Western transition to his new outfit. That is actually what will determine who will take this seat. The person who is capable of making people transition either from ODM to Kenya Kwanza because it's a Jubilee. And there are other aspects of Jubilee. You know, it's a mixture of dynamics. So in general, Miriam, my conclusion as far as Nairobi result is concerned is that we are going to have more of an Azimio family elected positions than the Kenya Kwanza. And we are not going to talk of homogeneous now.
Okay.
That is what I could comment, Miriam, for now.
Very well. Dr. Nyanchama, okay. So another counties that are considered to be swing counties, and that is the Ma counties. And Kajiado, Raila Odinga is leading by 36,309 votes, translating to 52.38%. And William Ruto comes in quite close at 32,410, translating to 46.75% of the votes that were cast yesterday. Let me get you Narok County. And okay, so Narok County, William Ruto is leading with 30,768 votes, translating to 50.02%. And Raila Odinga comes in quite close there at also 30,348 votes. So the difference there is just slightly over 400 votes there, actually, just slightly over 400 votes. And Raila has 49.34% and Ruto 50.02% in Narok County. So the Ma community, the difference between these two leading contenders is not wide. They're what you would call neck to leg. Samuel Tawish. Okay, Kiptanui.
Thank you, Miriam, for that. It is actually, thank you, thank you. I'm sorry for that interruption. It is actually surprising, Miriam, that is wrong. Raila Odinga is losing narrow. And I cannot know the reason why. Because for previous elections from 2013 to 2017, Raila Odinga has been actually leading narrow. So I don't know but when you see the margin is not so big. The margin actually is not so big. I don't know. Maybe Miriam. I don't know whether you are aware that Narok also is a cosmopolitan like Nakuru. You see, there are many people who are evicted from Mau Forest and they were in Masai Mau. And what were you expecting them to do? I think you were expecting them to vote 100% for UPA because of the promises of returning back their farms in Masai Mau. So it is a blow to as Neo actually narrow. Thank you.
Okay, and as we talk right now, according to some tallying I'm seeing from one of the local media houses, let's remind our viewers the turnout yesterday in the elections. Registered numbers of voters in Kenya, according to the IEBC, stands at 22,120,458 voters. But yesterday, as of 4 p.m., only 12 million of that, 65,000, had turned up to vote. Registered voters, 22,120,458, and 12,065,000 are the ones who turned out to vote yesterday. And as of right now, according to a Citizen TV and their tallying, William Ruto is leading with just slightly over 1.6 million votes, and Raila Odinga is coming in second with just slightly over 1.5 million votes there. So still quite far, because the number of people, Kenyans who came out to vote yesterday, is over 12 million. So we still have a long way to go. Maybe by the end of work today, we would have a better prediction of who is leading in these elections. As we conclude this morning, I'll start with you, Tawish, your takeaway. Kiptanui, go ahead. All right.
The information, please. Come up again.
As we conclude the show, your takeaway this morning, even as Kenyans are waiting with bated breath on the results that are being tallied now.
Thank you. My takeaway, Miriam, is that the country is calm. I want to still ask Kenyans to maintain peace, even as they are just waiting for the results, and let us avoid propaganda. Let us avoid relying on the results which is being trickled by fake results from the social media. Let us actually be patient and wait for the announcement from the credible institution like IEBC. Thank you very much for having me on this show. May God bless you. May God bless Kenya.
All right, and remember, these are individual figures that are being tallied. I told you earlier that the forms are available on IEBC's portal, the 34A forms that the media houses and other organizations are using to put up their figures, but we still have to wait for the official results by the IEBC, and I think the possible time they'll start giving those, I think they said yesterday, will be tomorrow, but for meantime, these are just projections, and the numbers that are being added up, of course, from the IEBC by the different organizations, so they're not the official results until IEBC gives us the official result. These are just the but we've gotten them from the IEBC, so, but we'll see. Samuel Tawish. Okay, Dr. Nyanchama, close the show for us.
Thank you, Miriam, and my fellow panelists. You know, we have reached at a stage where definitely each citizen, voters and the candidates needs to go into what we call, Miriam, their introspection system. You see, we shouldn't, it's just election, it's just competition. Personally, I could urge all Kenyans, whether candidates or voters, to look at the world now differently. You know, this is the time the world, to you especially candidates, becomes noisy, and sometimes you wonder why things went that way, but I want to tell them it will be noisier. So they should not be discouraged. Whether voters, whether you are candidates, is not doing very well, don't be discouraged. Just look for a nice place, nature, go to the beach, look at the hills, look at the suns, look at the clouds, look at the mountains, look at the waters, and you will start feeling well. I am saying this, Miriam, because we now have to begin to cultivate peace. As Mahatma Gandhi said that actually there is no way to peace, there is only peace. All of what I'm saying, Miriam, to our listeners, all is not lost. Just to introspection, and life means just more than elections. This is just competition. Let whoever wins be congratulated. When elections will be, of course, officially declared or resolved, and move forward peacefully. Miriam, that is what I could say, and I submit.
All right, very well. And just to add to that, the school reopening has been postponed to the 15th, and that is according to Education CS George Magoha, who has said that there is a possibility that the tallying will not have been completed by the time that the ministry had set for the kids to go back to school. So the children will be going back to school after the midterm break on the 15th. That is on Monday next week. I want to thank you so much for your time. Please maintain peace. We still have a country to look after and to protect. And I really congratulate Kenyans from, except for the few incidences that were experienced yesterday, but there were no unnecessary, conflicts experienced like we saw in the previous elections. So I think Kenyans, we've learned from the past, and we have to protect and nurture our democracy at all cost. And as the rest of the panelists have said, it's not that serious. I mean, it's just the leaders we're voting for. It's just employment we're giving these people. So we've done our part, we voted, and now we're waiting. Once the tallying is done, the winners are announced, we'll just move on. The end of the day, that's all we can do. Thank you so much for watching. Keep well, and hopefully by the time we meet here again, we will be able to authoritatively even bring you some of the winners from these other races, and also the presidential, candidate who would have led by that time. Thank you so much for your time. My name is Miriam Ogutu. This has been Good Morning Africa. Bye-bye.